Hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Eating at a Meeting. I am Tracy Stuckrath, the host of the show, and I am in Denver. I'm actually in the Colorado Convention Center right now, with Big Colin behind me, and I am excited to bring you the second to the last episode of Eating at a Meeting for Women's HERStory Month, and it's called Stirring the Pot for Good, How One Social Enterprise is Uplifting Refugees. And I'm excited to bring to you Jin-Ya Huang, who is a purpose-driven creative innovation community leader with a focus on the intersection of art, design, and social impact work. She is the founder of Break Bread, Break Borders, a social enterprise that empowers former refugees economically through storytelling of food and culture. And that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm so excited. She is an expert in global marketing and in communications and has over a decade of extensive background for the Fossil Group, Keurig, Dr. Pepper, and more. So welcome to the show, Jin-Ya.
Hi, thank you, Tracy, for having me. I'm doing well.
Good. I'm so excited, and just to plug the La Dames de Escoffier,
Yes!
we're both
Woohoo! My Wonder Woman shirt.
So, I mean, I've been introducing a variety of different women from La Dames over the last couple of months, and I'm so excited about it.
Yeah.
So I need to hit go live on Instagram over here. Mm-hmm. So tell me about Break Bread, Break Borders. What is that, and what instigated you to create it?
Well, it is a social enterprise. It is essentially, we started it as a catering company. And so we train refugee women from war-torn countries, basically the very basic food handler's permit, manager's license, and any of the necessities, removing the barriers so they can get to job opportunities. And so they don't just drop off the food when they cater, they actually do storytelling. And so that's the extra bonus icing on the cake, so to speak, right? There's a lot of amazing business models out there, folks cooking with refugees and amplifying their food and culture. But my social practice artist background kind of gave me the thought of what if they shared their oral history and actually shared where the food came from, where they came from, and what that would be like, and just opening up that safe space to have a dialogue with the community. And really how it got started was my ancestors were actually refugees who escaped from communism to take refuge in Taiwan. And so this reads like a historical novel because it is true. Right. My father actually grew up during the war. I grew up really hearing these stories, traumatic stories of having to dodge shelling to go to school, being forced Japanese education, and having to ration food like rice, soy sauce, eggs, things like that growing up. And he had 7 years of that education. And my father just turned 90 this year. And to this day, he still speaks Japanese fluently because Taiwan was formerly colonized as Formosa. And so hearing these stories, and it was really tough, right? Hearing all this hardship and heartbreaks from all of that. And my parents always really tried to give us a better life than they did because it was so tough growing up in an impoverished community in the south of Taiwan. My mom's side of the family were actually farmers. And so it was really tough for them trying to raise 6 girls. Yeah.
In general, right?
They kept trying for a boy and just didn't happen. And so when my aunt and uncle called actually from Tulsa, Oklahoma, out of all places, and said, we started the Chinese restaurants here in the south, and it's doing really well, and we would love to do versions of Chinese restaurant in the middle of Tulsa, Oklahoma. We're going to do a Chinese version of McDonald's. Basically, we're going to do fast food. That concept doesn't really exist yet, and would y'all like to come and help? And so my parents said yes. And so my 2 oldest sisters, one was already married, one was engaged. And so they brought the 4 younger girls here. And out of the 16 franchises in the South, my mom and dad saw that one in Dallas was doing really well over in the Farmers Branch area. And so they pinched a penny, saved up, and actually bought the franchise from my aunt and uncle. And it was there. My mom was the chef of the restaurant, and I saw her transform lives. She would, because of her background, and she just was really intentional about hiring other refugees, immigrants, and migrants to come and work in our kitchen. My mom spoke so many different languages. It was amazing because also just the fact that she spoke food, right? That's such a universal language. Mm-hmm. And I was too young and stupid. Like when you're young, you're like, I'm doing homework and I'm peeling snow peas. So like, oh, can this be over already? And it just really took me a while to really see the impact that my mom was making. And when she passed from multiple myeloma, this blood cell cancer, I really struggle with the grief. And so that was actually how Break Bread, Break Borders was born. It was out of my needing to heal and turning my grief into action. And Break Bread, Break Borders is my love letter to my mother to honor her legacy.
Oh, I'm gonna cry.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, just breaking borders in general, because you said Japanese, you said Taiwanese, and then Chinese. All of that, and talking to your uncle, and I mean, they're all Asian, but they all also have their own influences of food.
Yes.
The food is not the same necessarily.
No. And the amount of love that you pour into it while you're
Right.
making it, right? And I think that was just something that, especially when I thought I was going to do this community dinner, which is going to be 1 or 2 pop-ups with famous chefs in town. And honestly, like all these folks after the dinner and hearing the stories, they were just like, how can we get this in our home? How can we get this at work? How can we get this at conferences? And how can you get this to my wedding, my baby shower? And it just grew. And I joke, I'm a social practice artist turned accidental entrepreneur, because I thought, like, out of all these different influences and my aunt and uncle, my mom and dad were entrepreneurs, like, how hard could it be to run a business, right? I mean, Tracy, come on, sis.
It's not easy.
It was so challenging and so tough every step of the way. And as a social enterprise, we really began ourselves as an LLC, but we really act so much like a nonprofit because of the work we do. It's hard work, right? And it was just being a hybrid. It really acts more like a benefit corporation, but it was really difficult to talk about this and also educate people at the same time. But I remember even at the first meeting talking to all the refugee women from all around the world, from Myanmar, from Nepal, from Iraq, from Syria, from Afghanistan, from Burundi, from Rwanda, all these different places. There was one guy that showed up and he was like, I'm only here for my wife. She's interested in cooking with you. And it was just hilarious because it's just a skill. They all know how to cook. But it's the logistics and operations of getting the license and permits and all those training. That was hard. It didn't come in all the different languages. And and I remember I had this whole slide deck and I was like showing people like why, this crazy Taiwanese girl wants to cook with folks. And I remember it was just like eyes glazed over, like deer in headlights for the longest time, like after so many slides. But when the slide of my mother came up, there was a collective in the room, like everybody just got it, and it just warms my heart because they understood, that love is like eternal.
Right, exactly. Well, and completely tangent from here, and has nothing to do with food, but I did my dad's a Marine, and he went through Marine Corps Basic School in 1964, and I planned a reunion for their 50 years after they graduated, and we were at the base. And one of the Marines was Vietnamese, and he put a picture of his mom up on the screen, and that was made me cry all over again.
I know.
But he's like, you Marines here are the reason I'm a Marine, because my mother got out of Vietnam and came to the United States, and it like broke all of their hearts. I mean, because they went through boot camp and then went immediately to Vietnam. But there's this Vietnamese major standing in front of them saying, I'm here because of you. And so the same thing with that. I mean, and you did say food brings people together, right? I mean, we all know what food is. And how did it help them? How did you see it help those women coming to another country and then being able to showcase their food culture to help ease their pains of having to leave their countries?
Yeah, I saw the ability of how arts and food as a culinary arts can heal people. And I saw how when my mother showcased her cooking with folks and how she blossomed from not being able to speak English and used it as a bridge building material. And I am I definitely got that DNA from my mom, right? Margaret Ming Huang, God bless her soul. And I feel like we stand on the shoulder of giants, and like she speaks through me in so many different ways. And that was the thing. And having a universal language like that, no matter what your differences and what the challenges are, you can sit down with a table full of people, and over a plate of food, you can break bread together and break down borders at the same time. And we were able to cook with so many different people of so many different backgrounds. And in this one particular conference, there were folks that were actually afraid to try food from different parts of the world, and they thought they were going to have to like skip lunch and and like, oh, I have no idea what this is, and what is kube, what is baba ganoush, and like some of the things sounded familiar, but it's like, wait, this hummus has so much more flavor and garlic. Like, what's up with this? And like all the spices, it's like exciting. And I remember it was this, we were cooking for a lot of folks in this very civically minded space. And one of there were a lot of senators and Congress people in the room. And so one of them came up to us afterwards and actually said, I wasn't really sure these women in hijabs, what they were going to cook and what they were going to share. And so, and the ladies, when they shared how they had to escape war-torn countries and how it wasn't a choice, and then having to live as refugees abroad, and then hitting the lottery coming here to America, and the experiences of cooking with Break Bread, Break Borders, it's like finding another family and finding another home, and being able to share just all that trauma, that hardship, war, and famine, and all that. They can take your home, your the clothes on your back, whatever, away from you, but they can never take away your pride or your recipes that you take with you here and here, right? And so for them to be able to share their stories and also share their recipes, they're so proud. And like I remember, like at that luncheon, this amazing guy came up and said, one bite into that rice took me all the way back to my grandmother's kitchen in New Orleans, and just the care and the kindness that went into this. And he was like, I really didn't know about any of this. And these are people who are making policies and laws around all this, right? And it just showed a whole side of kindness and compassion that I think a lot of people weren't able to probably change hearts, minds. But once you're able to change that stomach, it's a whole other story.
So yes. And that
we lean into it. Yes, we lean into it. Yeah. All
right. So Susan Dozer's over on Instagram. Hello, Susan. Thank you for being here. And she just commented, let's see, I'm going to put this up here. She said, love this.
Thank you.
Yeah. And she's another Dom as well.
Okay.
Yes. Yay. Go La Doms.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Because I was going to ask too, I'm like, did the attendees at some of these functions know that this is the experience that they were going to have when the caterer was hired?
Some do, some don't. Some just come with a sense of adventure. Some already heard from word of mouth. And we literally, like, my background is in Marcom, but like, I don't really like promote this stuff. Honestly, people would just like share about like what great things we're doing. And I still remember getting the call from Time magazine. I was like, is this a scam? Like, what is up? Like, who randomly just calls and says, we'd love to feature you next to Chris Evans? And I remember my sisters were like, you finally made it. You're in the same article as Captain America, and Chef Jose Andres on the cover. Like, you're like uniting awesome communities, and like, okay, you finally made it. Like you're finally legit. But before it was just like, I don't know what you're doing. You're not making art. You're just running a business. I have no clue who you're trying to help and whatever. Like, we try so hard to like tell our families like what we do,
Mhm.
but they're just like utterly clueless. But they love us regardless and just support us 100%.
Right.
And so it was super cute. But yeah, sometimes people know and sometimes people don't. And sometimes people are super surprised. And when it's not always rosy glasses,
Mhm.
you know, we definitely had folks that came in and said, out of all places around the world, why would you come to America to take good Americans' jobs? And then they hear about it's not really by choice. It's
Right.
because of war, famine, and trauma. And because this is like God's second chance for
Mhm.
people to have in life. And they realize that, oh wow, that story could be my mother's story, that could be my auntie, that could be my sister, that could be my daughter. And so many people, however they arrive at this, as long as they understand that, again, this is my love letter to my mom. And just understanding that I am trying to pay homage to like what she did, the legacy that she left behind. And like, what I've done so far is not even 5% of what she did in her lifetime. I still remember, like, she was 74 when she passed. This is almost 10 years ago. And we were supposed to celebrate a milestone birthday, but we ended up planning a service instead. And I think about, like, what would mom do in this case? And that's what I do. I try to, like, do the right thing. These are my mom's golden rules, right? Do the right thing. And I try to be a good neighbor, and I try to practice kindness and compassion every day. And that is it's worked so far. Like, everything I've ever learned is from my parents' restaurant. Like, every time I think they don't know what they're talking about. No, they're right. They're totally right. Yes, food is
Yeah.
the quickest way to
It's
someone's
quickest.
heart. Yes,
Exactly.
Constantine. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for piping in. That is so true. And you can convert so many different people in a variety of different things by, like, just even if it's a donut, like biting into donut and look like the flavors of it. Like you said, the hummus that you had, that was just amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Food, art, and advocacy, right?
Yes.
Those are like safe spaces in a variety of different ways. And safe spaces or third spaces, right,
Mhm.
are really important right now. I mean, they're important, but I think they're playing a larger percentage of importance right now as well. And how do you think the storytelling, especially around that identity and the resilience of coming from those war countries, is a vital part in healing? And where does the food come into that with that too?
Yeah, so like just like Constantine was saying, food is the quickest way to someone's heart, right? I read this author that said the shortest distance between two people is a story. And
Nice.
so, and when you share your story, you put someone in your shoes, in your
Mhm.
space, to hopefully understand or even begin to imagine, right, what it's like. And I think with food, like I said, we've actually had the pleasure of cooking with Grand Dame Lydia Bastianich.
Uh-huh.
She was
Right.
here in town when the Dame Dallas chapter did a fundraising for our culinary scholarship at the Italy location here. And so, being an amazing spokesperson, also a Grand Dame, she traveled here. And one of our cooks from Syria is a huge fan of hers. And so she was just like beside herself. Like, she was fangirling so hard, like she couldn't even speak. And it was just like tongue tied. And that Lydia talks a lot about that, right? About just how food is such a wonderful equalizer, you know. And my mom just always firmly believed that when you're able to bond that way, it's a deeper connection than anything else that you're able to find anywhere else in the world. And so we just really try to like celebrate that together. You always find there's like that one ingredient or that one spice, and it's everybody, you know, uses it like
Mhm.
slightly differently, but the fondness of it, right? I still
Mhm.
remember one of the chefs, like when she cooked with us, and one of the local farms actually grew like tarragon and these different herbs, and since they have been to America, like it was so hard for them to find fresh things,
Mhm.
and so when they saw it like green and not dried up, they were like, oh, where did this come from? And it was just like immediately, and like them and that chef and the farmer just like bonded, and like,
Mhm.
it like they didn't need language. No, they didn't need any kind of anything else. It was literally just the love for this freshness, this beautiful herb, and that came straight out of the earth, and it doesn't matter where you are. It's like the sun and the moon, doesn't matter where you are in the world, you're looking at that same heart together, and celebrating that freedom
Yeah.
to do that is really beautiful. Yeah.
That is beautiful. Yeah. I mean, because no matter where you are, you're going to see the Big Dipper and the Little Dipper,
Yes.
right? Yes. Yeah. I mean, you're going to know what those are.
Yeah.
Wow. What are some ways that, thinking through this, that community leaders and organizations can build trust and empower women with dignity and safety at the forefront, using advocacy and art and food? What are ways that you think that we can do that? And I think it's important right now with what's going on.
Well, it's always been happening. This is nothing
Mhm.
new under the sun.
Right.
And I think let's just get back to work, right? And so to
Mhm.
me, the work is consistent. It's not episodic. It's we don't wait until something happens. Like something's always happening
Right.
around the
True.
world. And
Mhm.
so I think for us in leadership in this kind of work, for me, we were really fortunate that Break Borders was recently acquired by a local nonprofit, and now it's been rebranded as Food for Good. So it's more accessible to all. And they've actually expanded the scope to serve the community that is families who are domestic violence survivors. And so I'm also a DV survivor. So it was really hugely important for me for the catering business to come full
Mhm.
circle. And this partnership being a part of the nonprofit is also really important, that it needs to be more accessible to people. It also needs to amplify not just women, but families who are impacted by trauma, to have their voice and their power back.
Mhm.
And what a lot of the shelter clients that were saying was, they were saying, we know how to cook, we know how to sew, we know how to clean, but we don't have education. So how do we find jobs, right? And
Mhm.
so for me, my privilege is that I came to the States when I was 13. I was at that age, seventh grade. I mean, kids are mean. It was pretty horrible.
Yeah.
The bullying that happened, but I had grit, I was resilient, and I survived. And surviving DV and all that, and surviving the trauma of losing my mother to cancer. And I think about, like, what does that look like when people lift it as they climbed, and what does that look like for me when I do this? And a lot of times when I do this is I go embed it in the community. I do things that are with the community, for the community, by the community. And so one of my favorite things to say is, when my community asks me for fire, I don't bring it water. And that's the thing. At the time, our community desperately needed this safe place, right? This third place that you were talking
Mhm.
about. Oftentimes it's church, it's a pub, it's a restaurant down the street where people congregate. And that fellowship is so important, because you're able to go there and share food and share art. A lot of times there's live music, there's incredible performances, and the love of the arts comes in this mix, and you're eating together, you're spending time together, and that bond is so strong, that and I wanted to be able to continue to give people this power that they might not have had if they were forced to in this kind of migration that was not by choice. And many of the women talk about how one was like pregnant and had to walk barefoot through the desert, and 10 days without food and water with 4 children. And when they finally got to a safe place, that the ability to sit down and even just to have a cup of tea
Wow. Yeah.
was tremendous, right? To be offered
Mhm.
that hospitality and that
Mhm.
grace and that gratitude. And so, and I now that the baby has been adopted, and they're making these beautiful chocolates and jams, and taking it, maybe pivoting it in a different direction from the catering, but the service is the same. It's, how do we serve our people? How do we serve our square? What is our community asking, and what can we do to bring that to them? So just, I think keeping our ears to the ground, and being practice deep listening, and doing whatever we can within our powers, obviously keeping ourselves safe, you know,
Right.
but bringing that water to the people
Mhm.
who need it the most. I think that's the best that we can do. Oh,
Right.
who's
Yeah.
this? Oh, that's
Susan commented again. I'm going to put this up here that she loved your quote. The shortest distance between two
cute.
people is a story.
Yeah.
And that is so true. And I love that.
People need to
And
tell these stories,
they
because
do. Yeah.
they can really relate. They
Mhm.
really can. And I really do feel like that the storytelling is just so beautiful. And that's the thing. It's like when my parents went through all this trauma, like my mom never finished elementary school, and she had to go apprentice for a seamstress and to go earn money because the farm wasn't doing as well as it should have been at the time. And so having like 10 kids in the family, like that was what she could do to contribute. And her marriage to my dad was an arranged marriage. So when my dad got out of the army, he had to have civilian clothes made. And so my paternal grandmother said, okay, here's some clothes that here's some fabric that I saved for you. Go to the seamstress shop and have some clothes made. And my dad saw my mom and fell in love and had the matchmaker. Yeah, just like go make this happen. And that was how they got married. And so it was super hilarious. Like at the restaurant, when they used to fight all the time, like my mom would be like, do free refills. That's called community building. My dad would be like, no, that's like giving away our profit. No, don't do it. And it was hilarious. Like he was a mechanical engineer. She was super creative and chef, and just, they were complete polar opposites. So, but I love that we got to spend that time together.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause when my sisters got married and my baby sister went off to school at UT Austin, I was the one that was here in Dallas. And I got all that time with my mom and dad that I wouldn't have if I escaped outside elsewhere. And so, yeah, I'm super grateful for that.
Yeah. I actually live with my parents. And so I am super grateful. I have been now since April of 2019. So it's really nice to have that relationship where we're all adults and we're not that teenager, like when you came over and like, why are we doing this? Right.
Yeah.
And actually when I was
a little bit, because they're almost the children and you're the parents. Yeah. My dad has Parkinson's dementia. And so like my sisters in Taiwan are doing the memory care. So yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. So you moved him back to Taiwan?
Yeah, because my sisters in Taiwan, remember the one that was already married, then the other one was engaged. They said that, hey, you guys did cancer care, and that was a lot. And it's our turn. We're going to do memory care. And so he moved back actually right before the pandemic. And yeah, and one of my sisters here took an early retirement. And so all three of the sisters that are retired in Taiwan, they're doing the memory care. And thank God for that. They're we're so grateful for them. Yeah. And this was right before my dad left. He was like, all my brothers and sisters like talk about their kids, and all the boys left. It's the girls that stuck around. And he was like, finally, it was like, he admitted it was really great having you girls, because you stayed to help, and we couldn't have to ask for more than that. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's definitely something different. And I just realized that we had different things. I moved to Japan when I was 14, Okinawa.
Oh, that was a good experience.
Yeah, exactly. And I moved to a Marine Corps base in Okinawa. But then for my senior year in high school, I moved to Southwest Georgia from Okinawa, Japan. So that was I'm privileged because I was in a Marine Corps base and all of these things, but it was definitely a different experience.
Oh, what a culture shock, right? Yeah, it's such a shift from having to say Ohio, konnichiwa to
exactly.
Howdy. I know I say y'all a lot these days.
Yes.
And most of the time people think I grew up in California until all those Southern things come out. It's like, oh yeah, you're not from around here. Like, you didn't grow up in Boston. I'm like, nope. I got to Texas as fast as I could have. Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have a new social enterprise, right? It's called the Sophisticated Pacifist Consulting Group.
Yes.
So how are you using that to carry forward your vision for making systematic, lasting change through what you've lived and what those women lived as well?
Yeah, so I think in my heart of heart, I always think about the kind of impact that my mother made in her lifetime, right? And I think about what kind of legacy would I be leaving behind. And that's the thing. It's like, it's never too early or too late to think about your legacy. And the way I wanted to invest in this is I wanted to continue to do food justice work, and food security has always been on the top of my mind, and work with women and girls has always been right up there as well. And as a descendant of refugees, and also very much an immigrant, and also first generation college graduate, I think about what that that means and what it's like, what an honor and privilege it is to be a true American. And also just like when we came to America, the amount of access to education was incredible. And so a lot of those, all my favorite things that I try to input into, oh, thank you, Susan. Yes, there is a lot of love in this, and pouring my heart into the community. What does that consulting look like, right? And so right now I'm actually consulting with the city of Dallas with one of their cultural centers that it's called the Oak Cliff Cultural Center. It's OC3, shout out. Yeah. Anyway, so they've commissioned this culinary series to talk about food security and also in the ways that grocery prices are rising, right? Oh, and a lot of people are thinking about, well, what if I like grind my own spices, and what if I did these different things, and what if I actually like celebrated this in a different way? And like a lot of people don't realize that when you do that, you're celebrating like thousands of years old of like tradition, and also you're releasing properties of certain spices that wouldn't really have the same antioxidant if you didn't release it that particular way, right? And so we've invited 4 James Beard nominated chefs to help us build this series. And so there are workshops that it's in partnership with Dallas College, who has a culinary school, here. And there's 2 different locations. One is downtown at El Centro, and the other one is a little closer to Farmers Branch, where my parents' restaurant was, over in Webb Chapel. And so that was super nice. And the class is really just going to be like these very intimate conversations with the chef, from Chef Ray Dawn, who was the chef over at Sandwich Hack, and now she has a Chimlan. And then let's see, Chef Fana Johannes, who's also a Dom. And then she's bringing her Egyptian background from her Carver DFW restaurant. She was formerly with Lucia. That's a really incredible place. And then also Maritza Trejo, who's actually a Dallas College grad. And she's bringing her Mexican heritage into the mix. And then Chef Rich Vana from the Heritage Table will be participating. And yeah, all these folks are just like doing great stuff, and we just want to continue to do good with them. And we're curating this space where we get to invite these chefs to come and do these mortar and pestle series, is what it's called. And basically it's these intimate conversations, and also each registration of the in-person class will get one of the Dallas College culinary student a virtual access, so they can actually watch this if they couldn't afford to come. And also we're going to do a lottery where one lucky winner will actually get to come in person and be the sous chef of the chefs involved. And so, because to me, I was so blessed to have like professors and folks in corporate that really took me under their wing and actually like mentored me and sponsored me, and where it became a two-way street. And so earlier I was talking about you lift as you climb. Same thing here. I just wanted to make sure that these students, these fine young people, have the same access, and that we speak their names in rooms they're not in, so they can get to success. Yeah.
That's awesome, because we need to learn from so many different people, right? And whatever their lived experience was, and how like one little sentence might share their lived experience. And so I love the fact that how you're incorporating them and giving them the opportunity to listen and as well as participate. So that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, because at that age, like my son is so introverted. Growing up during the pandemic was like did a number on them, right? All the Gen Z and Gen Alpha folks. And so like sometimes they're just like afraid to ask a question, and they think a little bit small sometimes, like, oh, they wouldn't be interested in it. This is a dumb question or whatever. No question is ever dumb, first of all. And second of all, it's like everybody wants to hear your experience, your perspective, and where you're coming from. And so it's always nice to just like, but that ability to speak up. Like I recently reconnected with a friend that I hadn't seen in like 5 or 6 years, and she was like, Jin-Ya, where did this Jin-Ya come from? It's just like, are you doing stand-up now? Because like, I'm like, no, I just learned how to use my voice. But it didn't happen until people like really poured
until Time Magazine called you.
And so, yeah, Southern Magazine, and also, yeah, all these amazing, like getting into the Presidential Leadership Scholars Program was hugely amazing, right? Having access to 4 different presidential foundations, from the LBJ Foundation, George H.W. Bush Foundation, George W. Bush Foundation, and the Clinton Foundation, and like cooking for the Bush Center and all that, and getting on the Today Show, cooking with, First Lady Laura Bush, and
Nice.
joking with Jenna, you're not folding those dumplings right. That is not a mom food. She's like, Mom, it's like my mom back in the kitchen. But it was so lovely to see that firsthand. And she was like taking things, packing them up. I'm just gonna take this home to George. And when I met President Bush, he was like, I told that girl to promote you. Good job. Good job. Keep up the good work. And just like, he's so funny in person.
Yeah.
And it's just like, he's hilarious. And I think that's the thing, right? One of I have to share this because one of my favorite quotes from him is like President Clinton talks about being like the eternal optimist. And President Bush like echoed that and said, you have to have hope. There's always hope. And when you're a leader, you can't be like, the world is ending. Follow me. Like, no, no, that doesn't work. And so having that hope and active hope, right? Strategy, action, and all these things built into it. And I think that's where we see ourselves in the next step, right? How do you actively participate? Because, something that you'll come to find about PLSers, presidential leadership scholars, is we're doers and we're a bunch of do-gooders. And so, and it's like, and for me, it's like, I have that entrepreneur mindset, right? It's test early, pilot early, fail early, and hopefully like fail upward and fail cheaply. And so it's just, and when you're doing this with the people, by the people, and for the people, it's a very different thing because the community just rallies. And my mom has passed for 10 years now. And so I'm still grieving for her loss, but it's in a very different place. I'm very much that artist that I grieve very differently. It also comes in waves, right? And so I think I couldn't have done this work with our amazing communities behind our back. And so, and I love that we're doing all this. We have to do this work together. And that's the thing. It's like when I was studying art, you're always like stuck in the studio by yourself and you think like, no, like inspiration is going to come, like how writers like go off in the woods and do whatever, like creative, and they have to like suffer. It's like, no, all this can come out of joy. And like when it continues to serve us it's having the hope, having the joy, and having that vision to look forward and that there's a better place. Yeah.
That's awesome. So that joy, what is there one memorable experience that you remember from one of the women or from one of the participants that joy really came out from them participating as a chef or as a eater in that?
Absolutely. Yeah. So one of my favorite stories is this gal, Rania. She was the youngest in the group and she was just like a little spitfire ball. But she was like so afraid to cook for people. And in the beginning, she would just like lose sleep and fret over all kinds of stuff, like having to cook lunch for 8 people. And after she went through the 2-year program, it was just like the sense of confidence, right? The self-esteem that comes along with it. And there's not enough world that can buy that kind of stuff because it's muscle memory. Like I didn't just like grow up like this, like learning how to speak and share my stories and openly use my voice. It comes with muscle memory. I'm sure it's same for you too. And so she just built that. And I remember we were doing this book launch with the local publisher and one of the attendees saw her speak and share her story. And as she finished her storytelling and she went up to Rania, she's like, Rhonda, I don't know if you remember me. My name is Lily, and Rania just like started like crying because she was
crying. I don't even know.
Yeah, I know. She goes, of course, Lily, I remember you. You came and picked me up at the airport when I first landed here. And wow. And it was like, and she said, you took me and my family to go get our Social Security card. You picked me up, and when I was crying in your office and saying I can't find a job because I have no skills, I'm no good at anything, I don't know what I can do to support my kids. And she was like, you were there for me. Of course I remember you, Lily. And Lily was like, I almost didn't recognize you, Rania, because you were crying in my office all the time. I just remember you crying. I don't remember ever seeing you happy, and like seeing you up there sharing your food and your stories and being so proud of your recipes, and telling people like, eat up, because if you don't, like, there might not be seconds for you to come back to. And just that sense of like, oh, amazingness, right? Just standing
Right.
in her power. And she was like, I don't know what to say other than I'm just so proud of you. And Lily said, so I'm getting married, and we have about 200 guests coming to the wedding, and would you be interested in cooking for us? And Rania said yes. And she did not fret. She led that team that day, and she just boss lady everything. and just, she rocked it. It was so amazing. And it just, I love how Kismet brings
Mhm.
people back in our lives in that way. And I love that she got to see her in such happiness. And Rania recently got remarried because she lost her husband during the war, and she was able to find love again, and just all this. And just like, I love how these stories continue, right? And our COO actually is a Marine, and he's in California now, and so we were texting back and forth, all crying. And that's also one of my superpowers, is I'm super great at like making people cry, because I just always have like amazing stories. And I'm like, yes, I will claim that as my superpower. But
Yes.
we're both just like crying, because we're so proud. They've come so far. And just when they thought they've lost everything, but everything else that they've gained along the way. Like, I love how America, the United States of America, is that for
Yeah.
so millions of people around the
Right.
world. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you could put all of this work into a dish, what would it be?
Oh my goodness. I don't think it exists yet.
No? Okay.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to create that dish together. I think it's honestly whatever's like the most comfort food now.
Mhm.
And I think for me, I think one of the biggest things that I just like super appreciated coming to the South, like as a comfort food, I think it's like grits and biscuits.
Okay.
Maybe shrimp grits and biscuits. Like, that's so Southern of me. But yeah, I don't know what it is, but I think there's something about, like, it doesn't matter what kind of day I had. And if I just
Mhm.
need like a pick me up, I mean, there's always going to be something Asian, but I will never be able to cook like my mother did.
Mm.
And so now that we're here, I fully embrace being a Texan. And yeah, the cute little armadillos hanging around and having cactus in the yard, and yuccas and all that jazz. But yeah, I think, that all that love and care, I think it comes to us in whatever form that comfort food is that you want to go to. And
Mhm.
for my son, it's noodles, any noodles, pasta, rice noodles, glass noodles, river noodles, whatever, like any kind of noodles. Like, he's like, okay, I love noodles. And I think it was because when I was pregnant, that's what I was craving the whole time. And so I carb loaded a lot. So he just like loves that.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah. Thank
Very
you.
cool. So
Uh-huh.
what do and one final note, what do you want, because your mother left such a legacy on you.
Yeah.
What do you want to leave for your son?
Honestly, just, I think, continue this journey of love, and whatever you like, lead with love. I
Mhm.
think that is the tender loving care that we need in our world right now, is
Mhm.
that, that tiny bit of compassion goes a long way.
Mhm.
And my mother always told me, not a whole lot of people agreed with this, and back then or even now, but when you do what you love, the rest will come. And I know a lot of people don't think that it always works that way. Sometimes it's like, you got to pay the bills. Yes, we understand that. But I really have stuck to that, and it's really, really paid off for me. And I'm so grateful for that. And that's the thing. It's like, I love doing this work. It gives me a sense of purpose, and it gives me a space where I can celebrate my loved ones and honor my mom in the most beautiful way possible. And yeah, I love being able to continue to serve the people I love in our communities, and there's nothing better than that. Yeah.
That's awesome. I was on mute. Thank you so much. This work and the lasting impact that you're providing based on what you learned from your mom and dad it's very inspiring. And I hope your son sees that and takes it forward as well. And I appreciate what you're doing for your community. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having this podcast, and I applaud you for your courageousness and your leadership, and I love that you have this platform and you share it with folks who need it the most. And so, everybody who's hearing this today, wherever you are, like, you are loved, and yes, keep bribing people with food. It works.
Right. All right. And everybody, you can get a hold of Jin-Ya on LinkedIn. There is her LinkedIn profile, and she's got all of her net connections on that as well. So you can reach out to her there. So thank you so much.
Yes, let's collaborate more, and we will do more stuff together. I'll come visit you. You come to Dallas. Are
you going to Nashville next month?
No, I actually have another conference to attend. And so, yeah, it's like, okay, can't go here, gotta go there. But yeah, I'm involved with an amazing group of people who are very civically minded. And so, yeah, I'm really looking forward to going to Seattle. But you have fun in Nashville for me.
Thank you. And actually, I am Eating at a Meeting is sponsoring it. So the general sessions will be recorded and will be used as podcast episodes.
Beautiful. Congrats.
Yeah, they get to be there and bring after the fact. Is she there?
From Dallas that will be going. So say hi for sure. Yes.
Okay, I will. Yay. All right. Awesome. Well, everybody, Jin-Ya, thank you so much again for being here. Everybody will be here. There's another special episode to close out Women's HERStory Month tomorrow. Laura Silverman, we're talking about non-alcoholic beverage movement with her. So that will be at 12 o'clock Eastern.
Love it.
Tomorrow. So thanks for Slow Food Atlanta just joined. Thank you. We're closing up now. But thank you for joining us. And until then, stay safe and eat well.
Yes. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Eating at a Meeting podcast, where every meal matters. I'm Tracy Stuckrath, your food and beverage inclusion expert. Call me and let's get started right now on creating safe and inclusive food and beverage experiences for your customers, your employees, and your communities. Share the podcast with your friends and colleagues at our Eating at a Meeting Facebook page and on all podcast platforms. To learn more about me and receive valuable information, go to tracystuckrath.com. And if you'd like more information on how to feed engagement, nourish inclusion, and bolster your bottom line, then visit eatingatameeting.com.